I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Whoops, realized I was muted the whole time. Let's try that again. What's going on, guys? Happy Tuesday. Shout out to everyone watching on Rockfin. Hello to everyone watching on YouTube. What is going on? Guys, I know last week I had guests every night, so I really didn't get a chance to talk to you guys much. So I'm happy I get a chance to do that tonight. So I know it's been a while. It's been a while. So you're gonna have to bear with me tonight. I am in a little bit of a mood. For the past 2 days, I have not been able to make my green smoothies. I went to the grocery store, all the spinach was gone. Second grocery store, all the spinach was gone. And I don't know who's doing this, but someone has bought all the spinach, all of it. Who buys all the spinach? Only in Massachusetts. Only in Massachusetts. So I don't know who you are, but you know who you are. You're out there, and I will find you, and I will come for you. Just kidding. But yeah, so I feel a little off because I haven't had that. And the first thing I had this morning was half of like a French toast. And I'm not used to having something that sweet first thing in the morning. And it just really like made me really hyper. And I was like, "Ugh." And then by the time like I got to work, I just crashed. So bear with me, bear with me. I do have my tea, so we're going to get through this. We're going to do it. But spinach does give me a lot of energy, and that's why I don't have to drink coffee. I know people have asked me about that before, and I'm like, I don't have to drink it because I get that energy from my smoothies. So give it a try, especially if you want to give up coffee. But, let's say hello to people in the chat. What is going on? Hello, Ashura, Sabby Sabs, who drinks a lot of spinach. Sabby does. Yes, I do. I'm telling you, man. I could turn into a big green leaf. Monique in London, what's going on? Grow your own spinach. I should try to do that. That way I don't have to depend on the grocery store spinach, which seems to be out. Seems to be out. What's going on, Sweet Drifter? Sure, it's tea. It really is tea. Only on Fridays do I bring out a different type of beverage. Only on Fridays. What's going on, Robert Hutchins? Great to see you. Shout out to Indy Left, who helps a lot of us over here in Left Independent Media. You guys don't know this. Indy Left does a lot of things in the background that you don't get to see. He's been a tremendous help to all of us. What's going on, Holly Horn? How are you? What a pleasure, as always. For a second, I just thought it said, hi, Ilhan, like Ilhan Omar, but it doesn't. I was about to say, not Ilhan. She is not here. Greetings, Vermont Bread. How are you? What's going on? Hello, Sean. Greetings, Popeye's Power Food. Absolutely. It is very important to me. I need my spinach. I need my spinach. What's going on, Laura Hansen? Hello to you as well. So, guys, let's get into it, because a couple of things have happened. I have some stories I want to talk to you about tonight. And yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? All right. So tonight we are talking about Colin Powell's legacy. That should be interesting story. I touched on it a little bit last night with Shahid, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper today because more people have made some ridiculous statements. We're going to talk about Meghan McCain blames the views. So Meghan McCain has come out recently. She was trending today on Twitter because she has had some things to say about Whoopi and Joy. And the question is, are they mean girls? And we're going to talk about CNN is called out. Barry Weiss went on CNN recently and she said some things. And I do have to say, I'm not a big fan of Barry Weiss, but I will say some of the things that she said, I 100% identify with when it comes to mainstream media. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So let's go ahead and talk about Colin Powell's legacy. So this is how it started off for me the other day. Like many of you, I did find out that Colin Powell passed away from the 1-9. To be fair, I do know that he did have health issues. He did have complications. I know at one point he had cancer. I don't know if he still did at that time, but that does weaken your immune system. So just to be fair about that. But that's not what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. It all started with this little wonderful little tweet here from Jamal Bowman. So Jamal Bowman said, as a Black man just trying to figure out the world, Colin Powell was an inspiration. He was from New York City, went to City College, and rose to the highest ranks of our nation, sending love, strength, and power to family and friends of Secretary Powell. Rest in power, sir. And then I said, let me go back here. I said, again, find other inspirations. So let's talk about that for a second, because I'm going to show you the other comments that people made about Colin Powell. I can't tell Jamal Bowman who he should look up to. Just is what it is. But what I can say is out of all the men from New York City, that's the person that was your inspiration? Him? Colin Powell? Really? And I want to make something very clear here. This is not a partisan issue for me. It is not the fact that Colin Powell was a Republican. I could care less about that. It is the fact that Colin Powell was a warmonger, that Colin Powell escalated dropping bombs on brown people abroad. I have a problem with that. I'm sorry, but I have a problem with that. So when I saw that yesterday morning, I was like, are you kidding me? Out of all the men to choose from? Robert Hutchins says, Jamal Bowman, man, chill out. Ilhanner said, damn, Jamal said a war criminal is an inspiration. What the fuck? Exactly. And I want to be very clear again, this has nothing to do with partisan for me. This is not a partisan issue. It is the fact that out of all the men to choose, you chose Colin Powell. He's not the only one. Brace yourselves for this one. This one really shook up a lot of people. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, public enemy. Rest in power. Hashtag Colin Powell. While we may not have agreed with him on many things, a strong man lost his battle today. Our condolences and prayers are with his family and friends. Rest in power. Guys, this is from Public Enemy. Again, no mentioning of his war crimes, no mentioning of the bad decisions that he made when it came to bombing brown people abroad. This is from Public Enemy. Public Enemy. The ones who told us that you can't trust the police. They had a song back in the day called Can't Trust It. That was actually a good song. Very true. Very true about law enforcement in this country. The ones who told us to fight the power. See, this is where identity politics can sometimes come in and mess things up for people. Because I'm not saying that you shouldn't look up to someone who is the same color as you. I'm not saying that at all. But out of all the people, him, we have to stop doing this thing where we allow the media to convince us, well, let me take that back, to trick us into believing that just because someone is black like us, that we should look up to them. That we should feel that they should be praised and worthy in some way. Because just because someone is the same color as me, that doesn't mean they're a good person. That doesn't mean they've done good things for people in this country. So if you're bombing brown people abroad, regardless of what color you are, you're no friend of mine, bud. You're no friend of mine. I just can't. But it gets worse. It gets worse. Hold on. Here comes another one. Here we go. And this one came from Mo. Mo tweeted this. Shout out to Mo. Let me go back to my thing. Here it is. All right. Brace yourselves. Now, you may not be surprised by this person, but what they say may really, really strike a chord with you. So let me share my screen again. This is why I tell you, man, you got to stop don't look up to politicians. They should not be your role models. They should not be your heroes. And I say the same things about celebrities. You know who my hero is? My parents. My parents. They're the people that I look up to. Bump this man. Mr. Rokana. Here we go. Colin Powell led our military to victory during Desert Storm. Was the first, they got to do this. See, here we go. They got to do this. Was the first African-American Secretary of State. Got to throw that in there, to silence the blows about the whole warmonger thing. Crossed party lines and inspired millions of young people across our nation to live up to their promise. Are you really praising him for leading the military to victory during Desert Storm? He's praising him for his war crimes. Let me pop out. Desert Storm is very familiar to me. My dad went to Desert Storm. When my dad went to Desert Storm, I didn't know when he was coming back. I didn't know if he was coming back. I'm not praising anyone who was involved in that conflict, who led that conflict, who initiated that conflict, who escalated that conflict. I'm not praising anyone who was involved in that. Ask my father how he feels about Desert Storm. Talk to the men and women who were over there fighting and how many of them were not the same when they came back to this country. And here goes Rokana. Congratulations. Let me praise you for your involvement, for leading Desert Storm. Not to mention all the civilians who were also killed. Innocent people. Hold on, someone's knocking at my door. Sorry about that. Anyway, I just don't understand how you can even say something like that. Robert Hutchins is saying it best here. I mean, I don't care about who is the first woman, the first man, or the first black man, or the first black lady, blah, blah, blah. It's all about what they did in their lives. Exactly. But they throw that in, you guys. They add that piece in to silence the blows of all the other things that they did, of all the other things that they did. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me see if I can find let me see if I can find another one. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Guess who else? Guess who else? Nina Turner. Nina Turner, you guys. Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, has died from complications of the 1-9. Condolences to the Powell family and friends. And friends? What in the? See again, see what they do? See what they do? Notice everyone that I just showed you was either black or a person of color. This is a game. This is a game. And this is frustrating to me because somewhere out there in Twitter world, other black people, black children are going to see this and think that this is okay. This is not okay. Let's mention what he did. Where was this? Hold on, let me pop out. Where was this, outcry of support for Mike Gravel when he died? It was crickets. Crickets. Where was that support? Anybody? Bueller? It wasn't there. Lawrence Johnson. Not okay, kids. Yes, Eric Thomas. Lawrence Johnson said, how low can Nina Turner sink? I mean, come on. How can you not call it out, you guys? Now, I'm not saying that people should not grieve. I'm not saying that you should be happy that he passed away. I'm not going down that road. That's not what I mean. What I do mean is, why are we praising someone who is responsible for for war crimes, for killing innocent civilians, brown people abroad? Why are we praising that just because they're the same color as us? No, it's not right. And this is coming from popular people. Popular people. This is the message that they are delivering to black people across this country. It is not cool. Now, someone else had a different response. You're not going to be surprised by what this person said when you see who this person is. But Donald Trump had a different response. And I'm not here to praise Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. But I want you to hear what he had to say here. Donald Trump said, wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, be treated in death so beautifully by the fake news media. Hope that happens to me someday. He was a classic rhino, if even that, always being the first to attack other Republicans. He made plenty of mistakes, but anyway, may he rest in peace. Read that last part one more time. He made plenty of mistakes. Go back up to the top. Wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, be treated in death so beautifully by the fake news media. Let me remind you that Colin Powell was Republican, and so was Donald Trump. You have a member of his own party pointing out his mistakes, but you have progressive Democrats not even mention it. It's one party, guys. It's one party. Troy C said that was a sick burn. And you know Trump would say it like that too. He'd probably do his hands, do that little thing with his hands like fake news media. You know how he does that thing with his hands? Interesting, huh? Now, again, I'm not praising Trump by any means necessary. But why is it that someone from his own party could call him out, but you have progressive Democrats who won't even mention those mistakes, haven't said a word about it? And I don't want to hear, oh, it's because Nancy Pelosi. No, Nina Turner's not in office. Nancy Pelosi does not control people's Twitter accounts. I love it, Gary. We're in trouble if Trump is the voice of reason. Where are we going here, man? Where are we going? Yes, gamer for life. We have no allies in Congress. It's sad. Yes, it's true. We don't. We have none. See? See what I mean? Nina Turner's comment actually got ratioed pretty bad to the point where at some point, and I think this was last night, but don't quote me on that. At some point, she turned the comment section off so that you couldn't reply unless she had mentioned you in that tweet. I'm not sure what setting that is, but somehow that happened. That's how bad that was ratioed. Nancy said that's why people love Trump. He's the only one with the guts to say those things. I told you guys this multiple times. Democrats are weak. Democrats are weak. Now, another gentleman, I don't know if I want to show that one though, because that one's a little. No, that video was really long. So I didn't want to show that one. But there was a guy on Democracy Now! I don't remember his name. I was watching this video earlier and he pointed out all the war crimes that Colin Powell was a part of. I know that a lot of us are not big fans of Democracy Now! Anymore because they've kind of shifted further to the right as well after Biden won. But what he had to say about Colin Powell and his legacy per se was interesting. And that was something I was actually hoping to hear from, I don't know. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm coming. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen. It's actually not as long as I thought it was, but here we go. Journalist Roberto Lovato says Colin Powell legacy in Central America and other parts of the world is a tragic tale of militarism in the service of declining empire. So I want you to listen to what this guy has to say. Let me go ahead and mute my mic.
The Central America engagements in El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and that was preceded by the Vietnam War, when you have a decline in the morale and the sensibilities of the U.S. military, having suffered a defeat, a severe defeat in Vietnam. And so Powell was part of a cadre of leaders trying to figure out how to create a post-Vietnam animus for the U.S. military machine. But one thing I want to make clear is that the Powell doctrine of overwhelming force, bringing in the public into supporting U.S. war, clearly defined national security objectives and other things that define what they call the Powell-Weinberger doctrine are still war policies. And so Colin Powell's political career was one thing in terms of race and being pro-abortion, but in terms of militarism, it was clear. In El Chorrillo neighborhood, which taxi drivers in Panama still call the little Hiroshima, hundreds of people were killed. They're still excavating mass grave sites of the invasion of Panama. And so, and prior to that, remember, Powell was an assistant to then Secretary of Defense under the Reagan administration, Caspar Weinberger, who was, charged with overseeing military policy in Central America, which instead of going into what they called, asymmetrical warfare like they did in Vietnam and got beat up, the militarists like Colin Powell decided to stray away from those kinds of war and fight them through proxies, and instead focus on building up to get big, state-to-state military wars. And so the fight against Manuel Noriega, also on false pretenses, was a preview and a preparation for the state-to-state war that followed in Kuwait and Iraq.
Long story short, he was responsible for killing brown people abroad. And that guy broke it down effortlessly. And I wished more people would have talked about that yesterday instead of pretending like these things didn't happen. We're going to move on to our second story tonight. And this involves, and I can't believe I'm about to talk about this woman. I don't think I've ever talked about her on this show, not even once. But she was trending today on Twitter, and I had to find out why. And so I looked at it, and lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, Meghan McCain is finally speaking out about why she left The View in a new memoir. And she spoke with Variety magazine. And I want you to hear some of the things that she said, because the question that I have before we get into this tidbit here. Oh, where did it go? Let me go back to it. The question that I have about this is Meghan McCain right about Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar? Now, I am not a fan of Meghan McCain. I never have been. I never will be. I just want to put that out there. But does she have a point about what has been going on at The View behind the scenes? So let me go ahead and scroll down. Let me get rid of this video, because I got to tell you, before I tell you about this, none of this really surprises me. When you have a group of women that are very, strong-minded, and you put them all on one panel, on one show, at the same table, at the same time, there are going to be disagreements. There are going to be feuds. But let me go down to this part. Let me find that part real quick. All right, here we go. Let me share this. Meghan McCain is basically talking about how I think she felt bullied by Whoopi and Joy. Now, I'm going to go on record here and let you guys know I am not a fan of Whoopi Goldberg either. I don't know much about Joy. To be honest, I really don't like The View. I remember when The View was much different than it is today, when it was with Barbara Walters. Very different show. And so let me make this a little bit bigger. When The View started to turn into the political View, it really turned me off, because they were lying and they were misrepresenting politicians. They were smearing Bernie Sanders. They were smearing Tulsi Gabbard. They treated Marianne Williamson like crap when she came on there. Anybody who came on there with plans to actually help the people, they treated them horribly. And when Joe Biden came onto that show, they kissed his butt. So listen to this. During my time on The View, I felt like I was often being punished and singled out for being a conservative. I'd hear a lot of complaints that the staff, including the other co-hosts and producers, had problems with my personality. Until I got pregnant, I could handle it and manage it. No matter how hard the days were, I accepted the trade-off. I was on the most watched TV show on daytime TV with a platform to speak to and for millions of women in this country. This was the deal the devil and I knowingly made. What changed was how I was treated after I had a baby. I gave birth to Liberty. I suffered severe postpartum anxiety. For those of you who don't know what that is, postpartum anxiety is a cousin to postpartum depression. It affects about 10% of new moms, according to the American Pregnancy Association. Telltale signs are excessive worrying, racing thoughts, and feelings of dread. Where it turns from being different from normal, new moms worry is the point at which it becomes irrational. Irrational. I sadly had this in spades. I was paranoid that someone was going to kidnap Liberty to the point that I considered hiring armed bodyguards outside our house. I was afraid people wanted to kill her, steal her, or hurt her in some way. Let me scroll down. I couldn't also navigate the idea that I was hated and felt hated at a toxic work environment. The second that feeling set in, it started to snowball into me thinking that everyone hated me. And because of that, I was worried even more that someone would steal or kidnap my child. All right, here comes the part with The View. When other women came back from maternity leave on The View, they are welcomed with confetti and baby presents. Also, I'd been gone for 3 months and I assumed they had missed seeing me. I was wrong. Here we go. On my second day back, as I was still getting my sea legs back and adjusting to my new schedule and life between breast pumping and researching for my hot topics, Joy and I began squabbling a bit about the state of the Democratic Party on air. I said, Joy, you missed me so much when I was on maternity leave. You missed fighting with me. I did not, Joy said. I did not miss you. 0. Nothing anyone has ever said to me on camera since I have been giving interviews since I was 22 years old ever hit this hard. I felt like I'd been slapped. She yelled out at me sharply and intensely, and I believed her. Now, I know I'm not always a perfect angel, but I would never speak to any woman that way who had just returned after giving birth. Scroll down here. There are also times in my life where you aren't as strong as you usually are. That's so nasty, I said, unable to hide my shock. That's so rude. Until that moment, it hadn't even occurred to me that Joy hadn't missed me. She'd text me to ask to see a picture of baby Liberty, and she'd seemed happy for me. We chatted in a friendly way. Fake. Next. If you guys didn't want me to come back, I wouldn't have come back, I said to the producer in my earpiece. I told him he might need to pull my camera away for a minute because I wasn't sure if I could get myself together in time to go back to interviewing people. All right, let's scroll down here. This is the worrisome part. I no longer felt safe working at The View. It is one of the most singular feelings of loneliness and anguish I've felt in my entire life. It was a perfect storm of hormones, postpartum anxiety, and a lot of demons on The View coming out to bite me. Later, I asked my executive producer for an apology from Joy. She had humiliated me live on air, and an apology from her didn't seem like a lot to ask. I was told I would not be getting one, and we all just needed to move on. I never talked to Joy one-on-one again after that day. So, and this is a part here that's kind of interesting. The View is billed as being honest and open. It's billed as an arena for women to share and discuss their views on politics and the most important topics of the day. Let me pop out here for a second because I have a couple things to say about this. The first part is, let's remove the Republican Democrat part from this discussion for a second. Here's the thing. I told you guys this a while back that I did not have a lot of girlfriends growing up. I hung out with the boys. I was a tomboy. Later on in high school, I realized that might be kind of cool for me to get some girlfriends. Even at that point, I think I only had like 3 girlfriends that I would consider like I'd pick up the phone and call often. We talk to each other often. When I got to college, I decided again, I probably need some more girlfriends. This was the current, you see this? This is a pattern here. So I thought that it would be a great idea to try to join a sorority. Boy, was that a mistake. Some people join because they want the letters. Some people join because they want to go to all these parties. I joined because I wanted a group of girlfriends. And to be fair, there are some that if I did not join that group, I would have never met them. I went to a big school. Our paths would have never crossed if we weren't in the same major. But at the end of the day, would I do it all over again? Hell no. And let me tell you why. And I didn't even stay in the whole time. I didn't even stay in the whole time I was in college. So here's the thing. One of the things that I've learned when you're a part of a group that is all female, when you have women in that group that all have strong opinions, that all want to be heard, naturally, you're going to butt heads. It's just a reality. The problem that I noticed with The View is when it started to become more of the political view. It was not always that way. I remember when Meredith Vieira was on The View with Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters was the one that started the show. It wasn't that way. It was more like, yeah, hot topics, celebrity gossip, that kind of thing. A milder version of Wendy Williams' show. And somewhere along the line, and I want to say this may have started after Obama won, they decided to become more political. There was another woman in Meghan McCain's spot before Meghan came. I can't remember her name, but she shows up on there every now and then. And when Meghan McCain came on the show during the Trump era, it seemed like everyone got along a lot better before Trump started to run. Once Trump got in the race, it was like, Meghan McCain, as the Republican, she's naturally going to defend the Republican candidate. Now, this is where this is a little bit different. Because after Trump got in, Meghan started to change her tune. And she would always say, like, she said this a lot on the show, that like, she's still a Republican. She's still a proud Republican. But she does not approve of the things that Trump is doing. I will give her credit for that. She did say that quite often. Not in the beginning, but later on, she did say that. So naturally, you have the other women on the panel with you. They are definitely going to pick at you. Definitely going to pick at you. And I want to be clear about this. The View is a liberal show. It is not a progressive show. It is not a leftist show. It is not a socialist show. It is a liberal platform on a corporate network, mainstream television. Why do you think they only have one conservative on the panel? So if you're coming on that show as the conservative, you are going to be picked at. And when Elizabeth was on that show, if you guys remember back when Rosie, oh my God, what's the woman's name? You guys know Rosie. Why can't I remember her last name? Rosie, comedian Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell came in there for a little bit. There was another woman on that show in Meghan McCain's spot. She was the conservative. Her name was Elizabeth. She became famous after being on Survivor. So anyway, when Elizabeth was in that spot, if you remember, Elizabeth and Rosie O'Donnell constantly butted heads on that show. constantly butted heads to the point where Rosie O'Donnell wanted to leave and Elizabeth eventually left too because the back and the forth and fighting. So what I'm saying is when they created this show, this liberal show, they knew that by putting just one conservative on the panel, that was going to cause tension. It was going to cause arguments. And they knew that was okay for them because it would give them ratings. Do you think they stopped and thought about how it would affect the women on the panel? No, they want views. They want them to argue. They want them to fight. That's ratings. That's how this business works. So for Meghan McCain coming on that show, having watched the show, I feel like she should have known what she was in for. I don't know if she thinks that because she was John McCain's daughter that her experience would be different, that they would treat her differently. But no, at the end of the day, it's a liberal show. And by liberal, I mean pretty much Democrat. Now, Whoopi Goldberg, she's supposed to kind of be the in-between independent person, but she sides with the Democrats. She simped hard for Biden. All of them simped hard for Biden when he came on their show. So the part where when she was coming back from maternity leave and they were treating her that way, I think that's pretty cold. Whether you like her politics or not, I do think that's a bit ridiculous. I do think it's interesting that they had baby gifts for other people, but they had nothing for her. Like, that's really like bitter. And this is why, going back to when I was growing up, this is why I hung out with dudes. I don't have time for that drama. I don't have time for the cattiness, the bitterness. I don't have time for it. And this is not to say that all women are this way, but these things do happen when you have a group. It seems like to me, Meghan McCain thought when she came on that show that her and the other co-hosts would be friends. But no, boo, no. This is a business. This is a business. Joy ain't looking for no friends. Whoopi's not looking for any friends. And that's unfortunate. Every now and then you get that one person. They get excited about being like part of something, a group or something. And they forget about the fact that at the end of the day, it's a business. And just because someone is friendly with you on air or maybe a couple times behind stage, that don't mean they like you. That doesn't mean they want you to be their friend. And when she came back from maternity leave, they showed her exactly just what they thought about her. Now, again, I am no fan of Meghan McCain. I think she's a bit ridiculous, especially a lot of times on that show. Some of the things that she would say, I just thought it was outright ridiculous. I don't care that she wants to go outside and shoot guns and drink. She's talked about that a lot. I really don't care. But welcome to business, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to business. Now, do I think that Whoopi and Joy are mean girls? Don't know. Never met them. I don't know them. But I will say, considering some of the things that Whoopi Goldberg has said about Black people on The View, not really someone I'm trying to get to know, bud. Not really someone I'm trying to get to know. Just is what it is. Again, at the end of the day, she's Black, but she's also rich and wealthy. We are not on the same level. This goes back to the class issue. Joy, don't know. I saw a lot of fakeness, okay? I remember when Bernie was running in 2016, Joy was all about Bernie. I think she even named her dog Bernie. This time around, she was just like, oh, no. All of a sudden, she didn't like Bernie anymore. All of a sudden, she was simping for Biden. That means Joy got a talking to. Probably by producers. It's fake. It's fake. When I see Sunny on The View when she says, I don't know, I like Beto. I just like him. I don't know why. Fake. When I see Whoopi Goldberg say, oh, Andrew Yang wants to do a UBI. Why didn't anyone come up with this idea? Andrew Yang thinks that people should have health care in this country. Why didn't anyone come up with this idea? And I was sitting on my couch and I just wanted to scream at my television because I said, what are you talking about? Bernie Sanders has been on this show multiple times and told you those same things. And you're going to pretend like you're just now hearing about it now? Get out of here. Joy Behar sat right there when Whoopi made those statements. And Joy was a Bernie supporter in 2016, and she said nothing. How dare you tell that lie to America? How dare you? It's fake. All of it. They say what the producers tell them to say. They have teleprompters. I don't have no teleprompter. I don't have no script. Nobody tells me what to say. I just come on here and I talk. Fake. So hopefully what Meghan will learn from this is that not everybody in this business is trying to be your friend. Not everybody in this business that sits on a panel with you is your friend. I just can't. I was like, they just spewed so many lies. I sat there and I watched all these episodes during the 2020 debates, and I watched them just lie after lie after lie after lie, to the point where it drove me crazy. And I said, I cannot watch these women anymore. I cannot watch them. So, Meghan, why would you trust them? Why would you think that you were going to have some type of like relationship with them and they were going to be your friends when you sat there every day and you watched them lie? It's ridiculous. They tell the narrative that ABC, I believe The View's ABC, wants them to tell. No way they would have been nice to Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson wanted to talk about reparations. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. And then, of course, you got to have Whoopi on there be like, I don't know, like, how are we going to pay for this? And how are we going to do that? All of those women are rich. They don't care if we get reparations or not. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. I'm sorry, but that show, it drove me crazy. It drove me crazy during 2020 debates because every episode I watched them lie. And the people in the audience, whoa, whoa. Oh, sorry. Lost my microphone. Whoa, yeah, that's right. That's right. No, it's wrong. It's all lies. And what really frustrated me is when Bernie was on there, why don't you call it out? You know they're lying. Don't sit there and just be like, well, no, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Get out of here, man. Stand up for the people. Call them out. Do it. Listen, I watched this guy, I forget his name. I watched this guy in the House point to Obama and say, you're a liar. So you sit on this panel with these women and they're lying about you. They're lying about Medicare for all. They're lying about health care. They're lying about all this BS. And you can't call it out. Trump criticized the media before Bernie did. Come on. Thanks so much for the super chat, Anti-Life. Sabby, why do I find Black women attractive? Help. I don't know, Anti-Life. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. But thanks so much for the super chat. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know. Greg Bruce says, anti life, why is that a problem? Oh my God. Leslie says, because we are. Eric Thomas says, no help for you, bro. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I feel about The View. I think it's just BS. I think it's ridiculous. I don't have time for it. And hopefully this will be a lesson for Meghan McCain. I tell people this all the time, even when I go to work right now. I am there to do my job. If a friendship develops from it, that's great. But never, 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 never do I assume that we're all friends. All right. Let's go to our last story for tonight. I'm sorry, the super chat is cracking me up. So, Barry Weiss. I am not a fan of Barry Weiss, but she recently left New York Times. She went on CNN to talk about it. And while she was doing that, she she called out CNN. It's just the way it was done. So this is funny. And she's on here with Brian Steltner. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And I'm not a fan of him either. He is ridiculous. He was one of the ones that said that people shouldn't be listening to the independent media on YouTube because some independent media people on YouTube get more, views than CNN, especially now that Trump is gone. So this guy is ridiculous. He gets on my nerves. I'm not a fan of her either, but I want you to hear what she has to say because it's just funny how she kind of snuck it in. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
You write, there are tens of millions of Americans who aren't on the hard left or the hard right who feel the world has gone mad. So in what ways has the world gone mad?
Well, when you have the chief reporter on the beat of COVID for the New York Times talking about how questioning or pursuing the question of the lab leak is racist, the world has gone mad. When you're not able to say out loud and in public that there are differences between men and women, the world has gone mad. When we're not allowed to acknowledge that rioting is rioting and it is bad, and that silence is not violence, but violence is violence, the world has gone mad. When we're not able to say that Hunter Biden's laptop is a story worth pursuing, the world has gone mad. When, in the name of progress, young school children, as young as kindergarten, are being separated in public schools because of their race, and that is called progress rather than segregation, the world has gone mad. There are dozens of examples that I could share with you and with your viewers.
And you often say,
everyone
allowed.
sort of knows this, and
you say we're not allowed, we're not able.
between...
Who's the people stopping the conversation? Who are they?
People that work at networks, frankly, like the one I'm speaking on right now, who try and claim that it was racist to investigate the lab leak theory. It was.
But
I mean,
who
let's
said
just
that
take
at
an
CNN?
example.
But I'm just saying, when you say allowed, I just think it's a provocative thing you say. You say we're not allowed to talk about these things, but they're all over the internet. I can Google them. I can find them everywhere. I've heard about every story you mentioned. Course. So I'm just suggesting, of course, people are allowed to cover whatever they want to cover.
But you and I both know, and it would be delusional to claim otherwise, that touching your finger to an increasing number of subjects that have been deemed third rail by the mainstream institutions and increasingly by some of the tech companies will lead to reputational damage, perhaps you losing your job, your children sometimes being demonized as well. And so what happens is a kind of internal self-censorship. This is something that I saw over and over again when I was at the New York Times.
Who does that? Who's talking about those things? Well, quite frankly, networks like this. This is the second time this week, or was that partially? Okay, second time within a week and a half that someone has basically said that CNN lies. You guys know Joe Rogan called it out. They had to do damage control. Let's hurry up and fix this. Damage control didn't work well. Didn't work well at all. So yeah, this is the second time. Second time, dude. So here's what I'm going to say. Like, again, I'm not a fan of Barry. I'm not a fan of Brian. Not a fan of B&B. But I will agree with her in reference to two things. The self-censorship, the internal censorship, that is a real thing. And I can tell you over on this side that it's something we're always conscious of. I think like those of us in independent media that are on, YT, we are conscious of it because we know what happens when we cross that line, which I don't really think is crossing a line, but I've seen this in the past 2 weeks. How many people have gotten strikes or bans or have had their videos removed? People I know personally. So it's one thing to see someone make a video about it and say, hey, this happened, or tweet about it, but it's different when it's people that you know personally. And I watched it and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I'm seeing people cite sources and still get penalized. And this is a whole nother thing that I could do a separate episode about, but it's mainly happening to the smaller channels. And if you guys are on Twitter, you'll notice that as well. It's mainly the smaller channels that are being affected. The ones that are on the corporate algorithm, TYT, Majority Report, they can talk about whatever they want. This is not going to happen to them. They're corporate, bought and paid for. Majority Report is affiliated with NBC, Peacock. That's all connected to Sam Cedar. TYT, you have Jeffrey Katzenberg. That $20 million that he gave them, they are on the corporate algorithm. Some people are protected and they can talk about those things. And when you're in this space, you see it, you guys. You really do, because you can see two people make the exact same title, talk about the exact same things, and use the exact same sources. And the smaller channel will get penalized and the larger one won't. So what she's saying about the internal censorship, that is real and it does happen. The other thing that I agree with her about, when she said networks like yours, it's true. We've been saying this about mainstream media for a long time. This is what they do. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They will tell a story to have it fit their narrative, and they sometimes will leave key components of that story completely out of the story. Let me give you an example. Let's go back to Mike Brown. Mike Brown was a teenager. He was shot by a police officer. He was unarmed, and they left him laying in the road. When they first got a hold of that story, they came out with police officer shoots unarmed black teenager. They didn't wait until they got all the details and then released that story. So what happened? A lot of people got angry, got into an uproar. Then they want to wait a couple days later, and then they're like, oh, we have all the details now. So now we're going to tell you the rest of the details. Now you have conflict. Now people are conflicted. People are confused. They're like, well, wait a minute, which part is true? That's done on purpose, by the way. They don't give you the whole story right away because they want you to come back for more. That's how media works. They like to leave you in suspense and then bring you back later. And that's how they keep you coming back, right? Imagine if I did that. Imagine if I started with some of my stories and like, all right, tonight we're going to talk about Colin Powell's legacy. Colin Powell passed away. Whoop. Check back with me tomorrow for more news. You guys will be pissed at me. You'll be like, I can't believe this woman dragged me here just to tell me that little part of the story, and she's not going to give me the rest of the details until later on. But mainstream media does it all the time, and we buy into it. I know. I studied journalism. I worked in a news studio. I know how it works. So she's right about that. Network like his, CNN, MSNBC, all of them, they do it. And yes, they don't tell you the truth half the time. And some people say, well, that's an exaggeration. No, not really. Half the time, they are not telling you the truth. They tell you what they want you to know. And what they want you to know is what the producers want you to know. And what the producers want you to know is what the network wants you to know. What the network wants you to know is what their investors and their donors want you to know. Again, it all goes back to corporate. All goes back to corporate. Another thing she mentioned about the Hunter Biden and his laptop. Look, the fact that there's video footage of Hunter Biden using drugs on video shows his face and all. No mask or anything. And Hunter Biden wasn't arrested. I guess that's what it's like when you're Joe Biden's son. Where everyone else, I think I'm getting a little fuzzy. Hold on. I don't know what happened here. Give me just a second. I think my husband is streaming video games. Sometimes that happens, but I hate this router. I have to do something about that. I know. Yeah, give me just a second. I'm going to finish this up because it's after 8 o'clock. Tell your husband to chill. I might have to tell. Hold on one second. No, I do. It's actually plugged into the router. It's plugged into the router. Like, it was doing so well, and then it started doing this. But I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. Because I have like the highest, the fastest like internet speed. So I don't even think it's that. I think it's the router. I do have to get another router. Because this like shouldn't be happening when it's plugged into the router. Anyway, you guys don't want to hear about all that. But anyway, the thing that I was saying is she was right about what she had to say in terms of that. Now, this whole thing that she mentioned all before that, the world's gone mad, the world was already mad. So I don't know where this is coming from all of a sudden. There was always issues in this country and the world in general. So I don't think that's a new thing. I'm just saying, I think that might have been more for ratings, but I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. I am going to head out. I might have some cool news for you guys tomorrow. So if it's posted tomorrow, I'll share it with you. If it's not, then, I'll be back. It is what it is. But other than that, have a good night, guys. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.